We did a lot of qualitative research, but we did a big quantitative study. And we asked nearly 3,000 Australians. That's quite a large sample, actually. It sounded like a research geek, but it was. A whole range of how they felt about a whole range of statements. And how they responded to those statements basically classified them into different groups of people in terms of their approach to multiculturalism and asylum seekers, and roughly into 4 categories. You can kind of like look at the Australian population as like, you can, you know, you can quarter them essentially. There was about slightly less than 25% of people that you could describe as traditionally racist. They themselves happily describe themselves as racist. They're extremely worried about asylum seekers. That if on a statement like, if more migrants came to this country and we were a more prosperous country as a result, would you want more migrants to come here? No. We actually would rather live in a country that had a poorly functioning economy and less migrants. So they don't want migrants here under any circumstance. It's about a quarter of the population. Let me go back to this argument. So you had a quarter that resisted any immigration under any circumstances. Then you had about a quarter that would describe themselves as extremely generous. There's lots of room, we need more skilled migrants, we need all asylum seekers, very unhappy with the current political discussion. And then there was another 2 quarters, quite similar, so another half. This group were very, very worried about what they described as queue jumpers. They thought that the system had holes in it. But at the other side, they worried about children in detention. They worried about people being put in detention for long periods of time. They worried about too many people coming here, but then they also worried about the system here, that it was inhumane and problematic. They were conflicted. This is the group. So this is interesting. The first group that we could describe as racist would say, strongly agree with this and strongly disagree with this. That other group, that other quarter, the open-hearted generous, would say, absolutely not, we don't accept too many asylum seekers, we should have more, absolutely would agree with that. The other 2 said, we accept too many asylum seekers, but we need more skilled migrants. They do not see asylum seekers as having any skills whatsoever, or being able to contribute to Australian society. That might not be controversial, but it's what I want to explore today. I wouldn't say for a moment they don't accept on asylum seeker law or what's happening with migration, or indeed on the second part of this discussion, which I'm going to be talking about, social enterprises. But my understanding from those people who do is there's not exactly a queue in the way that we understand it. That the people that are coming on boats aren't necessarily taking away from the opportunity of people who are sitting in camps. So, but that's how Australians see it, because Australians are more than anything else, and they like to see themselves as rebels, some of the most rule-bound people you will find in the world. They're obsessive about this concept of fairness. That's one of the best things about our society. And that's been some of the genius of the language in this debate. Here are asylum seekers that are jumping the queue. Who do they think they are? How unfair they are. They're taking something away from somebody else. And here are the migrants who are orderly, organising themselves and have skills that we need. And it's these kinds of false categories that make us unable to see what may in fact be happening and what may need to happen. How do we see asylum seekers fitting into the economy, and particularly the economy that we want to create rather than the economy that we have now? An economy that is smart, interesting, diverse, vibrant, innovative. We think about the charity sector, but in some ways I think the charity sector is the least interesting part of the social enterprise area. And I've asked Taya Dusseldorf here today. She heads the Dusseldorf Foundation. They've had a relationship with the Kaldor community as well, to talk about some of the stuff that they've funded that does exactly what you are talking about. So I think this is a small scale but meaningful way to get beyond the asylum seekers aren't skilled, asylum seekers are going to take things away from me, but then connects that to what is a consistent anxiety amongst the Australian population of what is going to happen to the economy. You know, where are the jobs going to come from? How are we going to make sure that our you know, small businesses supported, and we have businesses that grow here that can't be completely, you know, shipped off to another country. All of that anxiety around immigration and the shifting economy. And I think that those kinds of things you're talking about are one solution. So what I want to talk about are two organisations very much like yours. And the first is, could you just move the next? Oh, that's what. Yeah. So the reason why I think social enterprise is so important is that when you talk to asylum seekers, they will say it is really about a secure job. It's not about bits of work here and there. It's about a permanent job. You can't get any kind of security of tenure of where you live. And the more important thing is that socialisation aspect, the ability to use English and to learn and to make friends with people here.